We have about less than 5 deaths that we know of that are related to obvious other causes. In this case, they are from gunshot wounds.
People joke about somebody taking a bullet to the head and then dying of coronavirus and all the variations thereof. Yeah, you thought you were joking, right? This is from Washington in the US. On May 21st, officials at the Washington State Department of Health confirmed that the state is counting in its COVID-19 death toll the deaths of persons who tested positive for the virus but died from other causes. And if you look at that little bunch of stats there, you've got 82% with coronavirus as a cause. It doesn't actually say the cause of death. 5% with it as a contributor, and 13% who had it at some point, but it isn't actually anywhere on the death certificate because it was nothing to do with their death. 13%. 13% is 1 death in 7, so that's actually a decent amount. I'll go to the audio here, a bit of introduction first, just in case YouTube thinks I'm making this up. Remember, this is the Washington State Department of Health.
Department of Health COVID-19 telebriefing. Today, we'll have 2 Department of Health epidemiologists present on how the state collects, maintains, and publicly releases data about COVID-19 deaths. I am excited to welcome Kathy Wasserman, PhD, MPH, State Epidemiologist for Non-Infectious Conditions with the Washington State Department of Health, and Katie Hutchinson, PhD, MSPH, Health Statistics Manager, also at the Washington State Department of Health.
So that would be this person, Katie Hutchinson, who's the Statistics Manager for that government health department. She explains how the numbers are recorded, and then she makes the point about anyone who's had the infection.
So, and I do want to clarify that because we provide the data in near real time, our dashboard numbers do include any death to a person that is tested positive to COVID-19.
If you've had it, you're part of the coronavirus death records, whatever you actually died of.
Our dashboard numbers do include any death to a person that is tested positive to COVID-19.
Then she gets to the obvious problem, which is where it gets fun, or embarrassing.
We do understand that there are some issues with this process. So we don't always know the cause of death for a death when it is first reported on our dashboard. That is true. Over the course of the outbreak, we have been monitoring and recording the causes of death as we identify them and as we report them and as we know it. We currently do have some deaths that are being reported that are clearly from other causes. We have about less than 5 deaths that we know of that are related to obvious other causes. In this case, they are from gunshot wounds.
Yes, die of a gunshot wound to the head and you might end up dying of coronavirus.
In this case, they are from gunshot wounds.
So yes, if you die of a bullet to the head but you've had coronavirus, you're recorded as having died of coronavirus. She says that the results are all reported in real time, which seems to be hinting at a bit of incompetence. It all happens so fast that it goes wrong. But you'd think that somebody seeing a patient with a bullet wound to the head would be able to work out that the death was from that and not from coronavirus. There is, however, cause to be grateful.
We don't have any deaths currently being reported that is anybody who died in a car crash or any other sort of accident.
Or anyone throwing themselves off a 100-story building or being eaten by a shark and having their death recorded in the same way. I suppose we should be grateful for that at least. And the gunshot wound deaths were relatively few, but remember the overall numbers that were released. 106, 13%, 1 in 7, deaths involved persons who had previously tested positive for COVID-19 but did not have the virus listed anywhere on their death certificate as either causing or contributing to death. Imagine how many deaths from flu there would seem to be if everyone who died was reported as dying of flu if they'd had flu at some point in their lives. Imagine how many deaths from flu there would seem to be in that case. And this doesn't have to involve any baseless conspiracy mania about Bill Gates or 5G. The numbers are being shunted upwards. It looks like it's by sheer incompetence, even if the lack of common sense is absolutely breathtaking. But at the end of the day, the numbers are clearly being shunted upwards, and by a decent amount, 13%, which is 1 in 7.
Our dashboard numbers do include any death to a person that is tested positive to COVID-19.
You'll remember that video by Dr. Dan Erickson and his colleague, those 2 Californian doctors, where he stated that hospitals are pressuring ER doctors to list coronavirus to death certificates. Turns out there's a reason for that which doesn't involve conspiracy theories, but isn't necessarily quite as innocuous as simple incompetence, if that Washington state matter about gunshot wounds, if that was down to incompetence. Money, 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 money. According to one Minnesota lawmaker, hospital administrators might well want to see COVID-19 attached to a discharge summary or a death certificate. Why? Because if it's a straightforward garden variety pneumonia that a person is admitted to the hospital for, if they're Medicare, typically the diagnosis-related group lump sum payment would be $5,000. But if it's COVID-19 pneumonia, then it's $13,000. And if that COVID-19 pneumonia patient ends up on a ventilator, it goes up to $39,000. The idea that physicians would be pressured to list COVID-19 on death certificates, even when it appears the virus had little or nothing to do with someone's cause of death, might sound crazy, but some would say it is entirely predictable. By creating a massive federal program that links goosed Medicare payments to COVID-19 treatments, the feds incentivized hospitals to add COVID-19 to diagnostic lists and death certificates. And that is massaging the figures, not because of Bill Gates and his deadly vaccine or whatever was going on in Washington.
In this case, they are from gunshot wounds.
Not sure I will ever tire of hearing that now.
In this case, they are from gunshot wounds.
But the simple potential financial incentives linked to massaging the figures, and on top of that $8,000 they can get for the coronavirus diagnosis, they can get an additional $13,000 on top of that if the patient goes on a ventilator, and a ventilator can end up damaging the lungs and killing the patient if it's basically unnecessarily set on full blast, according to this article at least. But the fact that ventilators can be counterproductive is not controversial. So they get their coronavirus death money, higher coronavirus stats, more scared people refusing to go to hospital out of fear of coronavirus, not getting treated for other conditions, and the vicious circle continues.
In this case, they are from gunshot wounds. In this case, they are from gunshot wounds. In this case, they are from gunshot wounds.